Swan and Chief Anderson. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you for that. And then we have everybody here.
Everyone,
Thank you, Chief.
we'll get started here. Mayor Cooper will begin, followed by Chief Swan, Chief Anderson, and then we'll open it up for some Q&A. We also have officials from NES, Public Works, Metro Water, to help answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all very much for being here. I'm grateful to the two gentlemen next to me. I'm grateful to all of the Metro employees, staff, and professionals. I'm grateful to everybody in the county. We're going to do this every day at 10:30 in terms of the media, to have a one moment where everybody can be together and answer all questions as best as we can. It was a tough day yesterday for Nashville. People responded so beautifully. What an incredible community we have. Now we're in the transition from yesterday's emergency to recovery. The next phase will be rebuilding. But getting recovery right is going to require information, the community working together about what we need and how to get people safety, materials, so that we can move beyond emergency to recovery. Now, we have received a generous outpouring of support. When I want to remind people, monetary donations at the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee, online at cfmt.org. They've raised $670,000 to date. That is not counting a very generous contributions from Google and from Amazon. Hands On Nashville has activated a volunteer sign-up page. Their website has crashed because of so much activity from time to time, but it's moving from 5,000 hopefully to 10,000 volunteers. What a sign of strength for our community. All in-kind donations can go to Lee Chapel AME Church at 1200 DB Todd Drive or the Community Resource Center at 218 Omohundro Place. Literally, rooms are filling up with supplies, and I'm so grateful. Last night's prayer vigil at the courthouse was very inspiring. Everywhere you go in the community, it's inspiring. I have never been so inspired as by being with people whose houses are destroyed, and they are an inspiration. Now, I want to thank our first responders, our utility workers, who are increasingly going to be front of mind in the weeks ahead, Metro personnel, and volunteers and neighbors who are helping neighbors. Now, at this time, I'm pleased to say there are no reports of missing persons in Nashville, Tennessee, and Davidson County. Now, that can change, but right now, that's great. Public Works continues to work on repairing and making our infrastructure safe. NES is working to restore power to 35,000 customers. That is not going to happen instantly, but we're grateful to those crews working overtime. Piedmont Gas is going door to door in affected areas to keep residents safe, and Metro Water reports that our drinking water continues to remain clean and safe. Officials from FEMA from Region 4 are on the ground as the declaration disaster process continues. They will provide valuable assistance to affected residents and businesses. Now, as of midnight, our 4 shelters reported a total of 90 guests. Some shelters had only a small number of that, but those shelters seem to be working well and doing their job in this time of emergency. MDHA placed 86 families in hotels last night. The city remains committed to providing housing for everyone suffering from this storm. Now, as a reminder, residents can request non-emergency government services, including debris pickup, by dialing 311 from anywhere in Davidson County. The 311 phone line will remain open 24 hours a day until further notice, and of course, Hub Nashville provides a very useful way of reaching out to the government for services. Now, I'd like to turn this over to Chief Swan, followed by Chief Anderson, to provide their updates. But we're really here in this facility because we have a lot of expertise in this room. The people that really know what's going on in Nashville, and we welcome your questions to be as specific as possible in every answer. And then again, for you in the media, every day at 10:30, we'll be doing this as we move through the recovery process. And with that, thank you, Chief Swan.
Absolutely. Well, good morning. I'm Chief Swan, Director of over the Fire Department and Office of Emergency Management. So being over the Office of Emergency Management, you're here at the Operation EOC, what we like to call as a war room. This room is designed and set up that when we have a disaster or any emergency in the city, we bring all the respective parties here so that we can together collectively make sound decisions and sort of cut through the red tape. So I've been able to see it firsthand from the time that the storm hit to the current time, where all the infrastructure within the city, everybody has worked together to try to get the city back into moving in a fashion as normal as possible. I would like to say that our fire department has worked very hard and done some very incredible things, and they still are. Our urban search and rescue teams have went out to all the areas that we have marked with damage to ensure, along with the police department, to ensure that there's no victims. We feel very well and good about that. Also, we want to make sure that the areas are still, when we say that it's clear, that just means clear from victims. Our concerns right now, along with the mayor, is that when we have the community cleanups and everyone's doing a great job, we focus on safety. We're trying to direct everyone to sign up through Hands on Nashville so that when they do that, we can still collectively come together and work in a safe manner. It is so important that you understand that our partners here with NES, Public Works, and Piedmont Gas, along with the water department, it's a collective order that we do so that they can go out and clean the area, or at least get rid of some of the debris so it's passable to get in and out of the communities. We've been working very hard from the time this event happened. Again, I couldn't be more proud of the city and everybody working together. I'm going to close it with that, other than just to say we thank everybody for their patience and understand that this city always have a plan. This is where it happens, and we work very well together to make sure that we do things as fluid as possible. Thanks to the mayor. I appreciate your really being here alongside of us from the time this started. And of course, Chief Anderson, I can't say enough about him. I'm gonna pass it on to Chief Anderson, then I'll be open for questions as well.
Thank you, Chief.
Certainly very proud to report to you we had no issues last night of any significance, no looting, no civil disorder. Nashville is just a great place. We work with the community and the community works with us, and certainly the community works with each other. As mentioned, the urban search and rescue team continues to work. We have no missing persons. We're getting many requests from out of state to check on relatives, and we're doing that on a regular basis, but we have no one that's unaccounted for at this time. In the four impacted precincts where the tornado touched down, the East Precinct, Central, North, and Hermitage, we have 12-hour shifts. All of our officers have gone to 12-hour shift with days off canceled. So that effectively increases our workforce by about a third. So in these affected areas, we're operating basically two police departments at this point. One to take care of regular business, all the calls for service, investigations, whatever needs to be taken care of on any day. But also in these areas, we have teams blocking the roads, assisting neighborhoods and so forth. We have 54 fixed posts where we have cars and officers controlling and directing traffic. And that's between us with assistance from the Sheriff's Department. There's always the issue of sightseers. Please be patient with us because we want the workers to be able to get in to take care of gas lines, electric power, and so forth. We're working a lot at the direction of NES, making sure that we keep a street safe where they're working on live power lines. But we also want to make sure that that if you have a business or your house is in that area, that we can give you at least some limited access. But again, please be patient with us as we sort through that and attempt to keep the sightseers and people that's tying up the traffic so that emergency workers can't get in and out under control. We'll continue these 12-hour shifts as long as necessary. Our officers are very excited about the work, and I think you'll see many more officers out there on the street than you usually see. Our fraud unit and with the work with the public information officers here have created this handout This is being printed as we speak. It will go to all of our officers. If there's anything, if you need assistance, if you're a victim of this disaster and you need any assistance whatsoever, there's a source listed on here where you can seek that assistance. If you want to volunteer, I've gotten emails this morning from people from out of state saying, I'm traveling through Nashville, but I would like to stop and spend a day volunteering. So if you want to volunteer, there's information on here who you can call and how you can get coordinated into a volunteer effort. And from this police department, certainly we're very aware of how this has impacted the individuals, families, their houses, their lives, their health. We have 3 officers ourselves that their houses are either destroyed or partially destroyed that we're working with. So again, we'll continue to work this effort as long as necessary to bring Nashville back to where we were last week.
Well, thank you, Chief. And then I want to recognize in the audience are some of our council members. Some of their districts were deeply, deeply hit yesterday. We're excited to all of us to be working together and work with the state to move the city from emergency to recovery. Now, with that, we have a lot of expertise here in the room, and we're here to answer your questions about what the city is doing to respond. I may get up and actually have one of them sit here in this kind of crowded room as we get to the questions. So, Chris, first question.
Yes. Just as a reminder, we have representatives from Public Works, Metro Water Services, Piedmont Natural Gas.
NES.
There's also, yes, NES. There's also a representative from Hands on Nashville. So let's get started with the first question. Yes.
Just a question about the 2 who died as a result of the storm. Emerald Walker, by the way, with CNN. I know your department chief tweeted about the 2 victims. Could you just tell us again who they are and what happened and where they were when they were killed by the storm?
I do not have the names in front of me now, but they were over in the East Nashville area on McFerrin Street. Both of them were struck by debris as the storm went through Nashville. And one was pronounced deceased at the scene. One was pronounced deceased later at the hospital.
So they were just leaving work and
They were leaving an entertainment venue at the time. It was around midnight.
They were killed outside their home.
They were killed on the street outside an entertainment venue that they were leaving.
I know you, Kim St. Ange with WSMB. You've mentioned, I think it was the 4 precincts that were, especially with the focus of the officers. Is there one in particular where you're really focusing some of these efforts on today with day 2 of this cleanup? Or where you're having maybe the most power outages or anything like that?
Well, keep in mind, the precincts covered a broad, each of our 8 precincts cover a broad geographical area. The storm basically sliced the county in half, so those were the precincts that the tornado actually touched down in. So our focus is on the impacted areas, not necessarily the whole precinct, but the impacted area. So if there's damage, debris, power lines down, we'll be there.
It's not like you have more officers today focusing on, say, Germantown versus East Nashville or anything like that.
Well, we have more officers focusing on the impacted area, whatever precinct they may be in. These just happen to be the 4 precincts that were impacted. South Precinct, for instance, wasn't impacted to any great degree.
Do we have a total estimate for how many people are displaced from their homes this time?
No, we actually, the Red Cross is keeping account as far as individuals that's using the shelters, but we're trying to collect that actual number because right now the number is just so huge, and we're just trying to get our arms wrapped around it. Again, once we operate off of what we consider the LIP method, which is life safety, incident stabilization, and then property conservation. So we're in that recovery stage, and with that, we'll be able to grab those numbers a little bit more better. But again, you got to always remember, right now we're just trying to still try to look at the recovery phase, and it is such a detailed plan when we start looking at every venue and how we do it. So we don't have those numbers, but we can try to obtain those for you at a different time.
Well, and maybe, Chief, you would comment a little bit just on the call volume and the responses yesterday that your department was able to put together.
Yeah, absolutely. I think from the time that the event started we really got it in control. There was about 400 plus calls that we made. We transported about 100 and I think it was 87. Don't quote me exactly on those numbers, but the numbers were really, really huge. And you got to remember, in our business, with the fire department and EMS, you're gonna naturally have, our call volumes are always high. But when you have an event like this, it's just going to exacerbate that number, make it a lot bigger. But again, the guys that are, the men and women of the department, in every department, of course, but just speaking about the fire department, did an incredible job and was able to get things back on a normal run volume. Once the storm hit, now the fire department is more or less back into their normal swing of things. Once that incident took place, instantly we went into a different mode as far as the volumes jumped up. But now that everything is stabilized, we're back on a normal plateau as far as our call volume. But again, it was overtaxing, but the guys did a great job of sustaining that.
Can I just clarify the 48 number you shared yesterday about the structures damage? Does that include residential homes as
No,
well?
that's just the businesses in the areas in those areas. I think that number I gave you, just I don't have it in front of me. That was more about some of the businesses, but we have not collected the numbers as far as homes and things of that nature.
Next question.
Are you all still doing the search and rescue, or is that now finished?
Well, we went through every zone that was struck. We've got a map that actually showed, again, where the tornado came in and left. And we've marked those areas down to the very street numbers. And we've cleared all of those areas, showing that there's no more victims. But our urban search and rescue teams right now are on standby, because we do know, along with the cleanup process, there'll still be a need for that possibility to happen, because there's so many structures that are not stable. So if the need comes, something happens to one of those structures, our teams are there to actually render the aid.
How long do you think you'll have to be in extra staffing mode to kind of get the city back on its feet?
As long as it takes.
Can I ask about, from NES, where we stand now in terms of electricity? What's maybe complicating
And Councilor Ewan,
getting everyone
come over
back on the grid, and how
here,
long?
just to facilitate the audio here.
Your turn.
Yeah.
So electricity, if we can get an update, how many are without?
Sure.
How long ahead we're looking, and what may be some complications to getting folks back with their power?
Sure. So in terms of infrastructure, this has been the most devastating storm of my career. We've identified approximately 600 broken poles. By comparison, the tornado of 1998, I apologize, it was 200 poles. To give you an idea of what type of damage we're looking at. So our thoughts and prayers go out to our friends and neighbors whose lives have been changed forever by this tragedy. Yesterday, we completed our assessment of the damage. We developed our plan and secured the resources to implement the plan. We were able to secure 400 contract linemen to assist our crews, most coming from Virginia and Kentucky. The additional resources started the day with our crews at 5 a.m. this morning. Our field resources will be working 14-hour days, 14 hours on, 14 hours off, 24/7, until we get power restored to all that can accept power. We've made some progress. We've reduced the number of outage from approximately 50,000 down to 34,800 at 9 a.m. this morning. We still have 3 substations out, the Van Buren substation, the Metro Center, and the Hermitage substation. We expect to make significant progress on the substations and the transmission line work through Friday. We believe we'll have most, if not all of that done by Friday. Then after that, it's a matter of circumstances, as you might imagine. If all goes well, most that can receive power will have power by Monday. In terms of our, I think someone asked about focus. So our today's focus is restoring the several transmission lines, restoring power to the water treatment plant, restoring power to Summit Hospital, rebuilding the distribution line to Cockrell Bend and the state prison, and repairing the lines in North and East Nashville in addition to the substations I mentioned. So hopefully that covered most of your questions, but if there are other questions, I'm glad to handle them.
Other questions?
I'm not sure who the best person for this is or not, but we talked about electricity. What about the roads that are still blocked? And what's the timeline of when those will be cleared up?
Mark?
We have Mark Sturtevant from Public Works.
What we're doing right now, our focus is moving debris.
Sure.
We take, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Mark.
Okay, again, our focus is to try to get roads back open, and that usually means moving debris off the street up onto the curb. And I want everybody to know if we move stuff onto the curb, we're gonna come back and get it. That's just a temporary thing that we do. Our other focus is to try to get intersections open that might have a traffic signal out, and that's dependent on, of course, power. So we're working closely with NES to coordinate that. I also want to say that in this early stage, the Public Works Department, our heavy work is yet to come in the days and weeks ahead. And our work at this point is really to support NES, to support the police department and the fire department in their work. And at this stage, from a organizational standpoint, we feel like we work for OEM just so we can keep everything organized and moving forward. So that's kind of our focus today.
OEM is Office of Emergency Management,
Correct.
which is operating
Right.
this
Assuming you're
coordinated
working with-
response.
Yeah, we're supporting NES, everything they're doing.
I assume you're all working on this together to clear the
Yeah.
roads, the power lines. Any estimate on when these roads could be reopened, or?
It's dependent on, we can get the debris out of the roads pretty soon. It's dependent upon getting power back to the signals, and if the signals have been damaged.
Hard to say, I guess.
Hard to say, yeah.
This is for Mayor Cooper or any of the gentlemen who maybe want to respond. Someone had mentioned the tornado of 1998. We had the 2010 flood, and here we are today. You all are doing the best that you can. The community has rallied together. What does that say to you about the spirit of this city?
Oh, what a city. I mean, I've never been so inspired in the areas of greatest devastation. People's attitude was the strongest. It was a blessing. I mean, I'm grateful to everybody in this room and the quality of the response and the first responders. It was a blessing, frankly, that there was not more loss of life. If you look out at the devastation, it is a great blessing. Now, all those who were injured, and we did have fatalities, but you look to our east and you see counties that were even worse hit in terms of fatalities. The strength of the community, everybody where that I go wants the power back on so they can start to rebuild. And that's an act of courage, and I'm grateful for it, and we need to support it, and we will.
Mr. Mayor, President Trump expecting a visit on Friday. Will he be meeting with him personally, and what do you expect from his visit?
Well, he called me yesterday and called the governor. I know he is looking forward to coming here. He has visited other tornado sites, and he was telling me how devastating he found it. And the raw power of the tornado, and clearly he had seen the pictures in Tennessee. He was aware of our casualty count, and he offered the support of the federal government, both in cutting red tape and being here in person to offer help. FEMA has also been in touch. The Department of Homeland Security has been in touch, but he is deeply aware of how much trauma Tennessee went through yesterday.
Will you be with him on the ground on Friday?
Yes, if asked, of course I will. He's the president. We need their help with financial resources, finally, in rebuilding the community, not only in recovery and in rebuilding. And I welcome him, frankly, to come to Tennessee and see firsthand what we're going to need.
Mr. Mayor, is there any indication how long it may take for federal disaster relief to be allocated to Tennessee?
We are working on that extensively today. This is our Director of Finance is here coordinating with the Governor's office. We issued an emergency declaration here because at the local level it is easier to move money around, and I want to be able to commit to overtime to our first responders that what we're asking them to do we're going to be able to pay for. Now, at each level there are other complexities with this, but I'm hopeful that soon we'll be able to announce that process going forward. But we are working beautifully with the state and the federal government, and this is a disaster that cuts across everybody, unfortunately, and we're committed to getting it right for people.
Mayor, I came here from Memphis today. All the volunteers from the Red Cross are already here helping from Memphis. What does that mean that folks from Memphis are already coming here? And what would be, for folks in Memphis watching tonight, if they want to help, what would be your message?
Well, we're grateful to everybody from Memphis, and frankly, a lot of mayors, from Dallas to Dayton, Ohio, have called to offer support. Specific departments may have some level of expertise that those communities are particularly, those governments are particularly able to help us with. But again, I do refer everybody to the great effort going on at Hands On Nashville, and then the Community Foundation, and then donations are gratefully accepted, both financial and otherwise.
In mentioning the financial donations, you said that didn't count individual ones from Google and Amazon?
Yes.
How much are those donations?
Well, Amazon yesterday is donating supplies directly to our community centers, and then Google yesterday pledged $100,000, which is beyond what has come in to the Community Foundation.
I'm not sure if you've already addressed this, but is there any update on the severity of the injuries?
When you say injuries,
Just anyone who, you're talking about people transported, just to know if there was any.
well, we know that, again, other than the 2 deceased, we did have one that was severely injured, but there's not been any other reports of any other injuries due to the actual storm in Davidson County. So again, we're very fortunate.
Which is, to all of you that have covered it, and I'm very grateful to the media, this is a moment where pictures and communication with the community is of great importance in understanding and healing. I frankly, that is such a blessing. I mean, look, if you see the devastation that we would have, relatively speaking, so little bodily harm, relatively speaking, in terms of the devastation in the community.
I was curious with conversations regarding our siren system, on how the administration and officials think that went, when this happened, and any conversation on what that looks like moving forward.
Well, I'll ask the chief. He updated me on this yesterday. I'll just say, he said we got what we planned for. We got the 3 to 6 minutes that we planned for. Now, we may want to have other plans as a community going forward, but did we get the emergency notification that we planned for in the system? But he would have a deeper insight into that.
Yeah, the system that we currently have is what we consider a blanket system, where if a tornado is cited or warning, no matter where it's at, if it's in Belmead or if it's in Hermitage, all the sirens go off, and that's exactly the way the system is designed right now, and it actually worked. It did its job. Now we are going to move to more of the polygon system, which it'll be more controlled. If the tornado's in Hermitage, only people in Hermitage, and the other, I guess, if it's in Hermitage, Hermitage will be alarmed, and it will not go throughout the other county or other cities. But that's coming. We're working on that as we speak. But again, the system that we currently have, it worked. It worked exactly the way it should, and we're very happy with that. We had no indications of any sirens that did not work. We do know that the sirens are designed to sound for 3 minutes, and then it goes into a lull for a few minutes, and it starts back again. So the siren system worked, and we along with being blessed from God and the systems, again, as the mayor stated, if you look at the devastation throughout Davidson County, we're very fortunate.
One more question.
Chief, how many men were injured and transported yesterday, and what's their condition today?
Say again.
How many of your men were injured, and what's their condition today?
Well, we had no personnel, and I think I used the word personnel yesterday, and it confused a lot of people. We had no personnel that was injured, but I will want to state, just like
No
many
employees.
no employees. Let me use that word, employees, because when you think about what we're going through right now, you still have to remember, I know with the fire department, we had several people that was affected by this storm, and they're still doing their job today. Along with everyone that's in that room, we're all affected some way, either personally or we know someone. So we had no employees that was injured. We're very fortunate and very thankful for that. And the individuals that were transported, as I said, related to the storm, which we had well over maybe 187 that was transported, but one of those was serious. And other than that, that's pretty much only only thing I can tell you about. But again, we're very fortunate.
One final thing, there are about 30 metro buildings that are still without power, internet, unable to serve the public. We are operating the government, but it is on a conditional basis. And people should check whether those facilities are open if they can. Not everything is open currently in Metro, but we are trying to get back as quickly as possible. So much of our recovery does rest on NES's broad shoulders. They need crews, they need our help, they need public understanding. And they need public also identifying where there are problems. And so it's a useful two-way communication back to us, from them, through you, from the public. Use the internet where it works and phones where it works to help us identify problems and the right level of response. Which one?
The roads should be ready to fix it Friday. We are concerned about the schools wanna be open. Do you have an idea? What happened with our kids?
Right. Is there someone from MMPS here? There are 4 schools that are particularly damaged. The current estimate is that it would be on the order of $5 million to bring them back online. Each of those 4 will have a separate process for reopening. One, the Churchwell School, I believe, will take the longest, and that will certainly be in the weeks. But parents should need to contact MMPS for the specific schedule and opening date for those schools. There are still some schools without power.
And I think the report has been just for this week that they will be closed. And we have a representative in the war room that will be able to talk to that. But as far as students, they will be closed for this week.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Just as a reminder, we'll do this again tomorrow morning. If you're not on our press distribution list for